Hi everyone. Today we are looking at Learning Target 2.2.2, which is on page 19 of your packet. And it says, I can calculate the y-intercept of a line given the slope and a point on the line. So we're taking information and using that to find our y-intercept without looking at a graph. So we're doing it algebraically. So we're going to go through the video notes section and we're going to go through a couple examples. So it says, if I am given the slope and a point on the line, I can find the y-intercept by, and we're going to list our steps out. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to use y equals mx plus b. So we're going to use slope-intercept form. This is our formula. And when we use that, we're going to plug in everything we know. So we are going to plug in our slope, which is m, and our given point. And every point has an x comma y. And we want to make sure that we plug it into the correct places. And so what I mean by that is when we're trying to find our y-intercept, the y value here is not our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is b, and so we're trying to calculate this. So nothing should be plugged into that b value, but we should have numbers plugged into the other three. Once we solve this, so we are going to solve, and we're going to write our answer. So we're going to write our y-intercept as a point. And when we write it as a point, it's going to be 0 comma whatever b value we found. And so that b is going to be an actual number that we calculated. So this is the same b from up here. So we're going to use our slope-intercept form. We're going to plug in what we know. We're going to solve it and write it as a point. So we're going to go through the first example. If the point 3 comma negative 2 is on a line and its slope is negative 3/4, what is the line's y-intercept? So I want to label what I know. So I'm going to grab a different color. So we have a point. Every point has an x and a y, so I'm going to label that. So we have x and y. A point is always xy. And then we have slope, and slope is always our m. And so our slope is that fraction there. And we are trying to find the y-intercept, which is b. So I label everything. Once everything is labeled, I'm going to plug it into my formula. So I'm going to start with y equals mx plus b. And then I'm going to plug in what I know. So my y I labeled right here, which is negative 2. So I have negative 2 equals my m, which is right here, my slope, negative 3/4. Then I have my x, and they are squished together, which means they're being multiplied. So I'm going to do parentheses, my x value, which is 3, and then plus b, and we don't know what our b is, so we keep it as the variable. So that's what it looks like when I plug them into the correct places. So now I want to simplify what I have. And so to start, I'm going to multiply my fraction, negative 3/4 times 3, and I'm going to do that in my calculator. So I have negative 3/4 times 3, and I get a decimal of negative 2.25. So up over here, I have negative 2 equals negative 2.25 plus b. So now I just have to solve for b, so I'm going to get b by itself. So I'm going to move my negative 2.25 to the other side of my equal sign. Because it is negative, I want to add it to both sides. So when I add it over here, I can cancel that out. And so I have to figure out -2 plus 2.25. So -2 plus 2.25 gives me a positive 0.25 equals B. And so I do have to write it as a point, and because it's my y-intercept, this number goes in the y spot. So my final answer is 0, 0.25. We have one more example to go through. So the bottom one says a line runs through the origin and the point -4, -7. If the line is horizontal, what is the y-intercept? So there's actually a typo in this one. So what I want you to do is the line runs through the point. Cross out the origin part, because if it ran through the origin and this point, it wouldn't be horizontal. So a line runs through this point, and then if the line is horizontal, what is the y-intercept? So it looks like in this one we have a point, but we don't have a slope. We actually do have a slope. So right here when it says the line is horizontal, that is our clue. If we have a horizontal line, so a horizontal line is straight across like this. And if we think of Mr. Slope Guy, if we have a horizontal line, that is his mouth, which means our slope is 0. And so our M is 0, so that's our slope. And then we have our point, which is X and Y. For this one, I'm going to go through it just like the steps tell us to, plug it in and solve it, but then I'm going to show you a different way as well. So I'm going to start with y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to plug in what I know. So I know my y value is -7, so that goes where my y is. So -7 equals my slope, we said was 0. My x value of my point is -4. So I'm going to put that in parentheses because, again, those are being multiplied, so those also have to be multiplied. And then I have plus b. When I simplify this, 0 times -4, and 0 times anything is 0. So I have -7 equals 0 plus b. 0 plus b is still just b, so I get -7 equals b. And this is my y-intercept, -7. And so when I write it as 0, -7. And that's my y-intercept. The other way you could do this, and this works for horizontal lines, is I'm going to kind of like sketch out what it would look like. So if I have my graph here, -4, -7. So this is -7 down here, this is -4. So this point, this is a sketch. So it goes through that point, -4, -7. So -4, -7. If my line is horizontal, that means it has to go like this, which, if we look right here, passes through the point of, this was -7, but I wrote over it, of -7 on my y-axis, and so that would be the point 0, -7. So this works for horizontal lines because I know it just goes straight across left and right. When I have an actual slope, I do need to calculate it algebraically, but this is another option for that one. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to do the independent practice right below. So underneath here, there are a couple questions, and then there is one on the back as well. And if you notice with these, they are worded a little differently, and that's on purpose. So this one says a slope is this and runs to this point. This one says you're given this information and it's labeled as M. This one, it says it crosses the origin with a slope of this. And so how these questions are worded could be fair game on a test. So you have to know how to do all of them if they're worded a little differently. They're all asking for the same thing. And so you want to use your slope-intercept form, plug in what you know, and then solve and write your answer as a point, 0, whatever your y-intercept is.